down a trip of memory lane. Do you remember the moment when that last bell rang right before summer vacation? 12 glorious weeks, no plans, no obligations, just pure freedom. When was the last time you got to experience that level of freedom? I have to pause for a second here. Oh. I know. For me, it was a question that Rebecca had to ask me that was very similar of when was the last time I had time. I had to go back over the years, summer by summer, until finally I hit the summer between 7th and 8th grade. It had been that long. I remembered a summer filled with family and friends. I remembered endless days at the pool and watching reruns of The Monkees. I'm showing my age. But after that summer, every minute seemed to be planned. I was always checking the box, trying to get to that next level of something. I'm a veterinarian, and getting into vet school was not an easy feat for me. I was not the girl who, at the age of 5, knew that she wanted to be a veterinarian. I had always loved animals, but my parents told me that I was allergic. Yeah. So when I graduated high school, I was determined to find a hypoallergenic pet. I didn't bring home the hairless cat or the poodle mix. Doodles were not a thing. Instead, I brought home a potbelly pig that I named Bernie and a cockatiel that my future husband and I named Killer Bird. It wasn't until my then 300-pound in-home potbelly pig needed hoof trims under sedation, and my cockatiel began having seizures that I even thought about being a veterinarian. There were only 2 exotic animal veterinarians in Indianapolis at the time, so I saw that as an opportunity. And again, it had never crossed my mind before since I had never had pets. So I changed my focus from human medicine to animal medicine. I had to get my master's degree in that time to really get my GPA up. And I had to work endless hours at vet clinics during my downtime just so I could get the animal hours and the experience that I needed. Many boxes checked along the way. Now, another thing about me, if I can't be the best at something, I'm going to try to stand out. So I continued down my path of exotic animal medicine, and I joined one of those practices my first year out after I graduated from vet school. We were a 24-hour clinic providing 24-hour care, but yet we weren't open 24 hours. So where did the animals go when they needed hospitalization? My bathtub. It was not unusual for me and my husband to have a rabbit with IV fluids, or a parrot that needed observation, or even a python that had heat rock burns just sitting in the bathtub. My favorite veterinary assistant during that time was my husband. He was particularly fond of a prairie dog that needed constant observation so she wouldn't chew her bandages or, even worse, her limb off. At that time, the 24-hour care, I couldn't imagine bringing my daughter into the world and providing that level of care. I was pregnant with her most of that first year as well. So I decided to transition to emergency medicine, and there was a local emergency clinic. But during that transition, she was born, and unexpectedly, we spent about 6 months off and on in the NICU with her. She was a failure to thrive baby, and she had a tracheostomy tube. She needed constant oxygen. She also had a G-tube with almost constant feedings at a slow drip, and she was hooked up to monitors constantly as well to monitor her vitals. So I debated giving up my career, or at least putting it on a good pause. But for my husband and I, getting out of the house and having a job and having something to go to provided us a little bit of normalcy that we needed. So I'm thankful for that ER clinic owner who convinced me that I could do both, and he helped schedule my hours so I could work nights. And then I'm also thankful to my family who would then take care of my daughter during that time between nights and days so that I could then flip and take care of her during the day. I was able to keep up with that pace for a few years, but my energy levels kept dropping and my weight kept going up, and I just simply wasn't able to care for myself. So I decided to transition into industry. There was a lot of skepticism there with myself, my family, my friends, not knowing what industry is. And you're probably thinking, what do you mean when you say you transitioned into industry? In industry, I can focus on broader animal health initiatives instead of the individual animal. So in industry, veterinarians were found in sectors like pharmaceuticals, food safety, product development and management, as well as research. Of the 127,000 veterinarians in the United States in 2022, only about 3,000 of us reported that we were on the commercial or the research side. So again, this is another way for me to stand out. I kind of like that aspect. Being on the ever-progressing path of ambition, it was time for me to find an executive coach. I was thankfully referred to Rebecca from a friend of mine from Purdue, Jim Bishop, who is now a colleague of Rebecca's. And I really found Rebecca to check off that next box. I was going to get to the C-suite. That's why I found her. The first time that I met with Rebecca, she asked me what my why was. And I'm like, my why is to get a promotion. That's why I'm here. But by the end of that call, I realized that wasn't my why. My why was my family. I had to be around and alive as long as possible to take care of my daughter. I had to be there for my 14-year-old son, who has a busier schedule than mine some days. And I had to be there for my husband. So the next call was, what are my new unique gifts and talents? Rebecca had me peeled back the layers to my teenage self, and what brought me joy? What brought me joy was my circle of friends. Most of them were in marching band, and we all had a common goal. We all wanted to win state, and we all wanted to go to nationals. But in our free time, there were a lot of impromptu concerts, usually in somebody's garage, because we all loved music. I also strived to make good grades along the way, and I found myself gravitating towards leadership roles in clubs and marching band and high school and all the way through college. So at the end of that call, I had realized that I no longer had that circle of friends, and I had been prioritizing my career over my friendships, over my hobbies, and over my self-care. So the next step was to prove Rebecca wrong. I could do it all. That was my plan. But through 2023, my role, the demands kept increasing, my stress levels kept going up, and I decided I didn't want it all. I needed to reprioritize things. I wanted to be there for my team because that's really where my strengths are, is bringing my team together. And I wanted to lead by example. So I was mapping out my future and what I wanted it to be. And right at that time, there was a corporate reorganization. I was suddenly given the gift of 12 weeks, given the gift of time. Time to spend with my family, time to reconnect and nurture old friendships, and most of all, time to break bad habits. These past 12 weeks haven't been easy on that aspect, but boy, have they been worth it, and they've flown by. So as I embark on my next chapter, I have a challenge for all of you. I'd like you all to take a moment and go back to your teenage selves. Think about what brought you joy. Where were your passions? Where are your unique talents? Get a little bit uncomfortable and think about what your real why is. Imagine a world where we prioritize our well-being and our relationships as much as we do our careers. Imagine the value and the relevance and the impact we would bring to not only ourselves, but to the lives of others. Because when we thrive, we not only elevate ourselves, but we inspire others to do the same. Thank you.
Where are your people at? What kind of table conversation you've been having tonight?
I told her what you were going to say.
There was an inside joke with her 14-year-old son who's here tonight, so I'm just like, well, I'm going to bust him out here tonight just to make it fun. So, did you have some good conversation during the table conversation? Because he was like, we're going to have table conversation? What? I don't want to have table conversation. So I just thought I'd tease you a little bit because we have the same style of humor. We'll talk about that later. All right. Thank you for this really, really, really important message. And where is Jim Bishop? There he is. Thank you for this introduction. Jim Bishop is one of the most extraordinary coaches that I know. So if you are looking for an executive coach, that's not me. It should be Jim. Jim and I have really enjoyed the idea of me working with executive women and him working with executive men to help on this journey to more self-care and more authenticity. So thank you for being a good partner of the show. We love you. Thank you for everything that you've done with this, with our group and how much you've supported one another. I have to share that when we got the call that said that her job was being eliminated, Lucy showed up with champagne and we all had snacks and we said, yes, freedom. Yeah, it was a much needed break and I can't wait to see what this next part of your journey that's already, it's happening here in a couple weeks. She'll be starting in a new role and I just can't wait to see the impact that you're gonna have there. Thank you. We love you.
Thank you.